Hello everybody, I'm Krasi Attasio, I'm sidereal astrologer. Today is day of Venus, and in the hour of Venus, when Venus is very well dignified, not well enough to use her position for making of astrological talismans, but very well dignified in the first degrees of sidereal, Libra, day of Venus, hour of Venus. I'm making this video about Venus. First, my tribute to Venus for being a planet that if you really connect with, and this is something that every one of us can do, helps us tremendously. So on this particular day of Venus, Friday, hour of Venus, I'm making a video which I hope will be very useful for you, as I'm planning to tell you aspects of the nature of Venus, of the natures of Venus that you probably don't know of and that you may use as astrologers, and also simply as knowing more about planets and making use of their positive energies. So first, of course, my starting point always is the ancient Babylonian astrology. And you know that in ancient Babylon, people would not sit in front of their computers and just statically, mechanically look at the positions of the stars and the planets, but they would look at the sky and they would analyze and take notes, make astronomical diaries, and they would discover how the planets and the stars influence them. So to me, this is the life, the real astrology, when you really look at the sky and when you keep such really personal diaries. So Venus. Let's look first at the mythology, because I discovered, and this is how I was taught by my teacher when studying Babylonian astrology, that all answers are in the mythology, the ancient mythology, because in our contemporary times, the history is so much manipulated to such a degree that the history of any type of history, the history of the religions, if you want, any type of history is being manipulated. So the answers are still there in the ancient mythologies. So we look at Venus. Venus, like every star and planet, has heliacal phases, which are the phases related to the position of the planet and the star with the sun. I will not go in detail explaining about the heliacal phases, how they work astronomically. I have separate video on this on the site of the School of Ancient Astrology. I will just tell you that so that you symbolically and esoterically understand the nature and the meaning of the planets. So Venus, the planets and the stars are related, of course, to the sun in our solar system. When a planet was invisible for a certain period, this planet was symbolically dead. Then this planet appears from the rays of the sun, and we have the symbolical birth of this planet. So we have actually the fast cold morning first, and this is appearance of a planet which signifies, which creates certain nature, gives certain characteristics to the planet. Then the planet goes and develops and goes into the phase called apogee, or when we see the planet high in the sky on the mid-heaven at one particular moment, and then again goes to its symbolical death, to join with the sun and to die symbolically in the rays of the sun until it become visible and born again. So why am I telling you this? It is because according to these heliacal cycles, we have different natures, different divinities, and they're different in the horoscopes, and they're different in our everyday life, because depending on whether Venus is a morning star or an evening star, whether Venus is invisible, we experience different events in our lives. So Venus can be represented by 3 different divinities, and depending on which divinity you have in your horoscope, your life is ruled by this particular divinity, or depending on what the meaning is. So Venus is invisible, and at one certain point Venus is born as a morning star. So what is this meaning? I would share a very easy picture with you. So look what we have here. It's just a very easy picture. This is Venus, this is the sun, and this is the earth. Venus was symbolically that, conjoined with the sun and earth. And this is the inferior conjunction of Venus. When Venus will rise on the eastern horizon after this conjunction as a morning star. What is happening when Venus is rising as a morning star? Then we have the divinity Athena Pallas, known in the Greek mythology, or Ishtar from Akkad from the ancient Babylonian mythology. So what do we know about Ishtar? Inanna from Akkad, or Ishtar from Akkad, was male deity, helped the kings to win wars. It was a divinity which was associated with wisdom. So when she rises in her first morning appearance, 7 days before that and 7 days after, Venus is very powerful. How you see this? Easy. In the morning, shortly before the sun rises, you have very high chances to see Venus rising as Inanna from Akkad, Athena Pallas. You know that how the Greeks would depict Athena Pallas with this male warrior appearance. So it is a male deity which is having swords and or other weapons coming out of his shoulders. It is about wisdom, it is about war, it is about strategic thinking, it is about power, creativity. And this Venus is near us, is very near Earth. It is not romantic. It is not that much associated with romantic love as we would associate the evening star Venus, which will be Aphrodite or Inanna from Uruk. So Inanna from Akkad helped the kings to win wars. So you can imagine what powerful strategic wisdom and thinking we're talking about. Other very interesting characteristics of Inanna from Akkad is that when one would have Venus as a morning star, the blessing and the good features of this particular Venus will come earlier in life. Though when Venus is an evening star, the blessings would appear later. So this is basically based on the mythology. Now, let's not forget that when Venus is in this so-called inferior conjunction, when she rises for the first time in the morning appearance, we say 7 days before, 7 days after, Venus is very, very powerful, very creative, very dynamic. So before one would reach middle age, Venus, if not afflicted, depends, of course, on the placement in the horoscope. One will experience the blessing of Venus. So she is born when during this inferior conjunction, Venus will be also for a certain period a retrograde, and then she is traveling until reaching elongation with the sun, and then she's becoming direct, and and follows her path until one day reaches again final appearance. So we follow up the path of Venus. Let's not forget that during this retrograde phase of Venus, she was also invisible in retrograde. She can rise helically as a morning star and for some time also be retrograde. Of course, this is influencing the chart. Then the person will experience some reappearance of lessons, some reappearance of events related to Venus, and particularly to this feature of Venus, like Athena Pallas or Venus as a morning star Inanna from Akkad. So the retrograde phase of Venus is existing, and this is making the nature of Inanna from Akkad even more complex. Venus is reaching at one certain point, of course, again, symbolical death. What do we have? Very interesting. When Venus, when she was retrograde and invisible with this inferior conjunction, very interesting is that this is another divinity. And here we have Ishtar, Ishthara, Ereshkigal. And this is a very complex, the nature of Venus, which is associated with romance, with love, with sexual love. It is also much more romantic and maybe sad than the Venus, which is the morning star, because when Venus is invisible, and all this is mentioned in the ancient cuneiform texts of Babylon, especially interesting is the Epic of Gilgamesh, where a lot is spoken about Venus, but I will tell you in a second about this. So what we have is that Venus, especially when retrograde and invisible, typically these people will be searching for love. They may, because this Venus is very romantic, very wise. This person came incarnated in order to go through the lesson of love, go through the lesson of the partnerships. And typically such people will be searching for partners in their life. What is happening here is that in mythology, because Venus, Inanna, is married with Nergal, and this is Mars. But if we do the reading of our contemporary era, we can say that Venus is associated also with Pluto, because Ishthara is also ruling the Scorpio. So the legend is such that Venus is in the underworld. She's invisible. She is not happy. She is taking off all her jewelry and naked. She's taking the path for searching for her partner, for her husband, and she's sad. Then she takes the route. She's going on the boat, or the heavenly boat, and takes the route of the river Eridan, where we know that the souls of the dead are being transported, and she's searching to reunite, to meet her husband. So you have to see in the chart, if there is a good aspect with Pluto or with Mars, even if Venus is invisible and retrograde, there are high chances that this person will meet love, will meet soulmate in this incarnation. But if not, the lessons of love will reoccur, and the person will need to learn the lessons of love. So this is what is happening when Venus invisible plus retrograde. The person, man or woman, doesn't matter, will be searching to reunite with the husband, or which is Pluto. So look at aspects between Venus and Pluto, very important, and also Venus and Mars. Yes, the ancients didn't take into consideration Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, but we have all data given in the ancient mythology to associate them with the mythological characters. So, and then you have Venus having another phase of invisibility when we have the superior conjunction when Venus basically is coming very far from Earth and on the other side of the Sun. And when Venus comes somewhere here, we here from Earth will not see Venus. Then this is the superior conjunction because Venus is very far. At this stage, Venus is behind the Sun and is not retrograde. Again, Venus invisible is descending into the underworld, not retrograde, but still we have the invisible love. We have issues with love. We have again Ereshkigal, but with another nature. Again, experiencing the lessons of love. Then Venus will appear as a morning, as an evening star, after being here somewhere on the superior conjunction. Venus will be born symbolically again, but this time as an evening star. And then we have a third divinity here. This is Inanna from Uruk, or Aphrodite. And this is a very different nature. Absolutely, this is female divinity associated with sexual love, with love, very romantic, very far from us, so vibrating on a very different level of consciousness. Then the person will probably, when one would have Venus as an evening star in the chart, most probably the person will experience the blessings of this Venus late, after 40s, after midlife, and will most probably the person will be very romantic, will be sensual, romantic, will be having absolutely different Venusian manifestations of the planet Venus. Of course, it all depends on the horoscope. It all depends how Venus is placed, whether detriment, whether exalted, whether afflicted or not, whether on midheaven, on the ascendant. All this is really, all this makes difference and is adding details to the whole reading. I'm just giving you basically the nature of Venus that you probably never thought of. And I will tell you a bit more in a second, just to stop sharing. So what we have Venus appearing as an evening star. And this is very easy, again, the same way, but you will see Venus rising helically in the evening. Shortly after sunset, you will be able to see Venus shining very brightly, you know. So she's born with the first appearance as an evening first. And she's powerful 7 days before this appearance, and 7 days after. She's very powerful. So what is happening that these particular days provide great power, either in the horoscope or when this happens as a transit in our everyday life, again, depending when Venus is. Then then at one certain point she reaches apogee when is visible high in the sky on midheaven. Again, this is very, very powerful. And she continues the path, and of course, until she goes to evening. I forgot to say about the stations. The stations of Venus are very short, but they also have certain meaning in the chart. So then at one day we have her last appearance, and she becomes invisible. She dies symbolically in the rays of the sun. So Venus, Inanna Ishtar from Uruk, is a female divinity. This is Aphrodite. She's about the human sexual love. She's about purification, because remember how far she is, how pure her vibrations are. She's about love of redemption. She's about romance. So she's not a warrior. So this you need to know when you will be describing a person. See if Venus is an evening star or a morning star. And also, of course, I said this, see how Venus is placed in the horoscope. Also, I have a video about the sect or highs, night horoscopes, night charts, or day charts when the sun is under the horizon in the natal chart. We have nocturnal chart and if the sun is above the horizon, we have diurnal chart. So it's logically to say that when Venus is a morning star, it's much better placed in diurnal horoscope when the sun is above the horizon, and when Venus is an evening star, of course, will be better placed in the evening, in nocturnal horoscope. Something also very important to tell you, Venus's invisibility can be up from 0 to 15 days. What is happening? Whether one will come to you and will ask whether there is a chance for finding a partner, finding love. Yes, because you need to follow up in the natal chart at what particular moment, when you look at the progress chart, at what particular moment Venus will become visible. And then when Venus becomes visible, this will be responding to certain age, and then you will know that at this certain age, the person will be blessed with the power of Venus. Something also very interesting with the nature of Venus. And then I will tell you about the interesting pentagram which Venus is drawing and the beauty of it, and why actually Venus is so much associated with beauty. It is because the path she follows is a path of beauty. It's the path of the rosette that she's drawing. I will show you in a second. But first, to tell you something very interesting, again, based on mythology. In the oldest epic, which is, it's not oldest, of course, because there is literature that we are seeing from 5th millennium before BC. But in the epic of Gilgamesh, we have the story of Gilgamesh and Enkidu, who represent the celestial twins, the Gemini. But here we have one passage where we talk about Venus. Venus, I suppose there Venus will be an evening star. Venus is in love with Gilgamesh, because you know that he has one part, he's one part human, 3 quarters, he has divine blood. So he is beautiful and he's a giant, and she falls in love with Gilgamesh, and she wants to seduce him, and she's proposing him to become his wife. Gilgamesh is afraid of her because she knows that she destroyed all her previous husbands. She turned one into donkey, other she destroyed in different way. He's refusing. Then she got furious in the legend, in the epic, and she's sending to him the celestial bull, the celestial Taurus, to destroy Gilgamesh, because she cannot stand the offense of being refused. So you see, the nature of Venus can be multi-layered, can be really very complex. So Venus as an evening star can be also very complex in the horoscope, can have different manifestations. So Venus is, especially the evening star Venus, has the complexity of the nature of the typical woman. So she wanted to seduce Gilgamesh, but he refused, and she got furious, and she was searching for revenge. So it is not that we look at the planets as good or bad. We need to look at the planets with all their complexity, depending on how they're placed in the horoscope, and knowing what is in the core, what is in the heart of the planet, the divinity which rules the planet, because there are living divinities ruling the planets, and they are. And especially I experienced this with full power when doing the astrological talismans, when inviting the divinity which rules the planets, and the amazing consequences which I experienced are, I want to share with you, because this is a proof that really it matters that we stay connected with the planets. It matters that we have the knowledge that the planets are ruled by living divinities which manifest in different way in our lives based on the placement of the planet or a star. in the natal chart. So there is also something very interesting about the nature of Venus. We are not allowed, we may not compare ourselves with the beauty of Venus. So if one is very beautiful, we need to be careful. We may not say you are as beautiful as Venus is, because you will see in ancient texts that Venus is supposed to remain the most beautiful. So she's also very sensitive, and there is also saying that when somebody is born very, very beautiful, Venus may become jealous. So these are just interesting stories that I'm giving you to tell you that we're dealing here with divinities which have emotions, which have feelings, which can help us if we know how to approach them, what to ask, what to request, how to respect them. Yes, the word is respect. And now let me tell you about the divine path of beauty, the Rosette of Venus. I will share with you I think this was drawn by Galileo, if I am not mistaken. I think so. And I'm showing you the Rosette of Venus. Basically, what you see is the pentagram of Venus, because see here the 5 peaks, corners of the pentagram. These are the 5 meetings of Venus with the Sun. And every time, every once in every 8 years, Venus comes on the very same place, with a very small difference. So basically in a chart, the first, so basically what you see here is the maximal elongation when Venus is far behind the Sun, are the furthest peaks, you see? And these here are when Venus is in the inferior conjunction with the Sun. So basically what we do is, in a horoscope, what is important to see is when in the life of the person happened the first elongation. So when the first time Venus was here or here or here, and this is very important. This will basically describe, depending on the house, depending on the sign, this will describe how Venus will work for you your entire life. Because we say that the beginning of a cycle is describing the complete cycle. So when the first time Venus made the first elongation, it is when actually her cycle started, basically, for the life of the person. So this will be very significant in terms of describing the nature of Venus. So every 584 days, Venus will make another elongation. In this way, she's continuing her path, and she's drawing this beautiful rosette, this beautiful pentagram. By the way, this pentagram is part of the sacred mathematics of the Fibonacci numbers. But I have a very detailed video only about the heliacal phases of Venus, which you may like to see. So I hope this was interesting for you in terms to understand how different the nature of Venus can be depending on her heliacal phases. What she will give us when she is a morning first, what she will give us when she becomes invisible and descends into the underworld, searching for love. What is she meaning when she becomes visible as an evening star? So when you know how to distinguish this, then you will know how to perceive your own Venus, and then you will know which Venus type you are if you want. So I would just conclude this by sharing another briefly one chart with you and show you how to see in a chart when Venus is an evening or a morning star. So in a second, I'm sharing my screen with you. Okay. Hope you see. Okay. Look at this chart. I don't know whose chart is this. I just took a chart to be able to demonstrate. Look, Venus is in the 2nd degrees of Libra. How do we know if Venus is a morning or an evening star? We need to search the position of the sun, and the placement of Venus as a morning or an evening star we will discover according to the position of the sun. So see, this is the sun, this is Venus. If Venus rises, see, if we move further on the zodiac, the sun, and the sun rises here, let's say in Sagittarius, and Venus remains after the sun, and the sun rises first, typically this is a morning star. Or you do something even easier. Move backwards Venus, move, and you see that Venus rises first on the eastern horizon, the sun remains under, you have Venus morning star. So basically, this is, if Venus was in the place of Saturn, say, so this is sun, this is Venus, you see that the sun is setting, Venus is rising, typically this is Venus, evening star. And easily look in the evening, look in the morning, and try to discover yourself whether Venus is evening or morning star, and see, analyze how this works for you, and in what way this will influence the personal charts of the people. So today is the day of Venus, and this video was really from my behalf tribute to Venus, because the more I connect with the stars and planets, the more I feel that they should be respected in such way in order to help us more, to benefit from their wonderful natures. So thank you. If you like to subscribe to my channel, you may. If you like to contact me all over my YouTube channel, you'll see my email address and the link to my website. Thank you.